Welcome to UCLA Extension Department of Business, Management, and Legal Programs video lecture series on entrepreneurship, new venture formation, and strategic business plan development. The video you are about to watch gives instructions on how to initiate and complete your Power and Influence Acquisition Mentor Net project assignment. I'm Harry Redinger, your instructor. There is a total of over 40 videos in this lecture series that integrates with our UCLA Extension online course management program, Canvas. Each video strives to be brief, but will overlap the other videos to integrate it into our curriculum. Okay, let's get started. Our first slide, acquiring market power and influence, and I have a photo here of the state of Arizona Supreme Court justices. And the reason why I put this slide up was to invoke the question, what did these people have to go through to be accepted, to be assigned, to earn one of the highest posts within state government? I'm certain that every single one of these individuals, somewhere along the line in their life, their career, made a cognizant decision to start to acquire power and influence within their marketplace. They developed and or were in a position where they had the opportunity to create relationships with other people that, again, would be in positions to help them get forward. Sometimes we can be in life situations where our job or our position naturally allows this to happen, but more often than not, we have to develop a proactive way to meet people, and to meet people of power and influence. And if you will, we can call this a power and influence acquisition program. For each one of those individuals, somebody, it's a magnifying glass, studied every aspect of their life from teenage, childhood, to early adult, to all the way through to their senior years, and or whatever age they might be, not that they're senior, but they had to, go under the scrutiny of the eyes of others and be accepted by their peers to achieve this position. The next slide here, since this is an academic program, and I think there's some relevance here, I have up here on the board right now images of a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a doctorate degree. And I want to draw to your attention the mindsets that are associated with the process of acquiring each one of these levels of academic excellence. The first is the bachelor's degree. And when we go through a bachelor's degree program, we have to sit through lectures, read books, and pass examinations to show that we have mastered concepts and theories. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fiery hoops to jump through. And sometimes our opinion doesn't count and we're not given a whole lot of respect. We have to survive that bachelor's degree initiation program. But when we go for a master's degree, all of a sudden we're given much more respect. And now it's a time to apply what we learned, to apply the concepts and theories of what we learned in our bachelor's degrees program. In a way, I'm going to bounce back for a second to the bachelor's degree program. At the very bottom, you can read down here, it says, to find and understand your passion. And so one of the things that we hope goes on and we start to take place from the standpoint of, is it better this way or is it better that way, that we can start to find what is our true passion in life in terms of things we really enjoy studying, things we really enjoy doing. And then where a master's degree here is how to apply our passion, to some area in the economy, some economic niche. And then when we go for a doctorate degree, all of a sudden, now we're in the position to create concepts and theories within the industry that we have chosen, or the science, or the area of the economy, or the marketplace, or an area of science. Now we're going to come in and contribute to the body of knowledge here and validate ourselves as an authority in that particular body of knowledge. So what I'm trying to do here is draw a correlation between the mindset sequences from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree to a doctorate to the mindset sequence that I want you to have to develop theories and concepts that will lead to a hypothesis, that will lead to some kind of vehicle to meet people of power and influence, that will lead you to eventually to publish, to show, to master an advanced level of knowledge within your industry, and that's where the real true power and influence really starts to come into your life. This next slide I have up here deals with, just wants to draw to your attention the importance and the reality that developing a power and influence program, and we're going to suggest a MentorNet program is the best approach to this. It starts just as soon as you have an awakening to the importance of it. So in essence, it's something that starts at birth. Of course, we really don't have aware of what's going on until about the age of 5 years old, and I doubt most 5-year-olds are worrying about acquiring power and influence. However, may I add, I have many friends with children, and it's always amazing how some 5-year-olds can be very gregarious and can meet everyone in the room better than what most of us adults can do. But anyway, but I just wanted to put up some slides to depict childhood, teenage years, early adult years, our professional years, midlife, and our senior years. Okay, this is an important concept. I mean, really important. It's kind of the heart of, in terms of mindset, the heart of everything going on here in terms of an awakening that I would like for all of you to have. Having a program or a strategy for meeting others is just as important as having an exercise program. We all, I hope we all, have a kind of a mindset that we want to get some exercise in 3 or 4 times a week, if not every day, to get a walk in or a run in or some weights, some cross training. But to get a little bit of exercise in every day, but for sure 3 or 4 times a week, for about an hour of cardio, walking, running, swimming, cycling, something. A healthy body is a healthy mind, and it's key to the success for your career, your entire life. So it's just as important as having an exercise program. Being able to have a program to meet people is just as important as having an exercise program. A healthy diet program, where you're trying to make an effort to eat, fruits and vegetables versus greasy hamburgers and hot dogs and things of that sort. I think it's called comfort food. As well as it's just as important to have a financial management program. And so we could draw this a correlation of the importance of having a MentorNet, or a vehicle, a way of meeting people, as being just as important as a exercise program, a diet program, financial management program, a social program, an education program. The list can go on and on and on. But I want you to start thinking that I need to develop for me a lifelong program, process, sequence, strategy for me to meet somebody. If I have to meet somebody over there or in that group, I have a way to do it if I need to. One of my favorite books by Rick Pitino is called Success is a Choice. And Rick Pitino is just an amazing basketball coach. I forget how many times he took the Kentucky Wildcats to the NCAA National Championships. But the whole concept behind this book is that if you develop a training program, and if you work diligently on that training program, you can demand success. If you develop a sequence, a routine for meeting someone that you do not know, that's of power and influence. And it might take a sequence of meeting some other people to get to that person, that if you practice each step of that process to meet that person over and over and over and over and over and over again, you at some point, and I love this Marquette basketball player. I mean, look at the expression in his face. I mean, he's determined. He knows he's going to get the ball or get the basket. But have that same kind of mindset, that if I develop and put together a program to meet people of power and influence, and practice the interview, practice the emails, practice the phone calls, practice the word of mouth, the references that you might need to get in front of this person, you will succeed. And we know for sure, statistically, that 70+% of the success in your life is going to be directly related to your ability to meet people of power and influence. That is a statistical fact. If your butt's in a closet with the doors closed and the light turned off, it's kind of hard to meet somebody. So the whole question here too is, luck versus hard work. And so success can be directly derived from hard work if we start to take the process of acquiring success. And whether it's a business or an occupation, it all starts with finding a way to meet people. And you can get lucky and it can happen, and you're related to someone or something, nepotism or something like that. But more often than not, it's someone you've met that you showed respect towards. They show respect back to you by referring your name to somebody. So again, 72% of all job opportunities, career opportunities, personal and professional, that are worth a hoot, comes through a third-party person who refers your name. Okay, so this is a big question. How do I design a lifelong power and influence acquisition program? Good question, and we've got a couple approaches for doing that here. First, start with your biography and your family background. What we're leading up to is, we've got to find your passion. We've got to figure out what we're truly passionate about. Now, regardless of your age, there could be a number of occupations and sequence or stepping stones that we have to go through to go from where we are now to get to where we want to be, or to execute our mission statement to achieve our vision of success statement. So the more that we can align where we've been to where we're going, we'll have a sense of destiny. And when we meet people, they pass judgment on us in some way or another within 7 seconds. Within 7 seconds. From this time they can see our eyes, hear our voice, feel our aura, they have passed some kind of decision on us within 7 seconds. That's not a whole lot of time, and that's not a whole lot of words or sentences, because they're reading our aura, our life force energy. You do the same, believe it or not. And there's been studies after studies that show that. So since we're going to develop a program to go meet people that we don't know of power and influence, we want to be certain that within that first 7 seconds, whatever we are using to meet them, which we call a mentor net vehicle, or our vehicle, which starts with our passion. And we have to figure out what that is. And so what we're passionate about, it's always great if somehow that passion is developed from the timeline of our life, that somehow it deals with the DNA of our parents, our heritage, but there's deep roots that we understand where our passion comes from, because that passion is going to become our destiny. And that passion, hopefully, can, like a thread and needle, can weave through all of the different careers and positions that you're going to have in your life, from the past to now and to where you're going. This passion in some kind of way should be consistent as we go through. A little sidebar note, in other videos we talk about the Myers-Briggs type indicator, emotional intelligence and things of this sort, but know that our innate personality plays an important role in understanding our passion. Okay, so step 2 is to validate our passion, is to go through the strategic planning process. Sometimes we call it the case study process, but it's a 6-step process. And it's a formula, but we can also use it as a meeting agenda, because for step 3, we're going to recommend forming an advisory board. In fact, step 2 could be forming an advisory board and guiding them through this strategic planning process to pin down what your passion is, as well as to come up with your hypothesis and what you're going to use for a power and influence acquisition program. And we're going to explain that as these steps unfold. So step 1, what's the problem? Our problem right now is we need to identify a subject matter, that a process, a thought, a concept, a theory that we're passionate about. Now I'm going to give examples in just a minute, but I just want to review the strategic planning process. So step 1, what's the problem? What are we going to focus our attention on? Okay, and so in this case, it's identifying what we're passionate about that we're going to use to develop a hypothesis and a power and acquisition vehicle. Step 2 is part 2, step 2 is, what are the relevant facts? And this is where the biography comes into play. This is where biography is great because they get all the relevant facts about our life, just like a resume out on paper. But they've got all the details from a standpoint of a narrative description of everything you've been through, all of your accomplishments, which give you the right to demand things. So we want you to get to the point where you can look at your life story as a sequence of experiences that are a perfect set of experiences to prepare you for what you're going to do next. And in this case, we want you to start thinking about, this has all prepared you to develop and implement this a power and influence mentor network development program. Now we want to brainstorm for all the possible solutions. In this case, we're going to brainstorm for all the categories within the economy, all the categories and subject matters that we're passionate about, all the things that we've had deep interest in, things that we just love to do, things that we can do over and over and over again and not get bored doing. Kind of like me in lecturing and teaching. I can teach classes back to back. I never get tired of it. I truly enjoy teaching and touching the lives of others in some kind of way for the rest of their life. So now we want to brainstorm, just to get as many ideas as we can out there. I like to put them on little Post-it pads and up on the wall. And then next, point that I wanted to make here, I got a slide out of sequence. The point that I wanted to make here is that every solution, alternative solution, wants to be able to align with your life story in some kind of way. So there's got to be relevance to it. So every solution to your problem should have some kind of relevance to your life story, so that so we're not too crazy with our brainstorming. But for every a solution to our problem statement, it should be relevant to the timeline of our life. Next, we want to consolidate our alternative solutions down to a list of 3 or 4 most likely solutions. So we might have had, 150 ideas on things we could be passionate about, or categories of our life that might constitute our destiny, or things that we want to become an authority on. Now we're going to distill these down to just 4 most likely subject matters, categories of the economy, etc., that we're passionate about. Each one of these 4 short-listed solutions clearly wants to see be a projection of your life story. So whether it's solution A or solution B or solution C, there should be a very clear conductivity between the story of your life, the sequence of events of your life that support that particular alternative solution. In a way, we want you, a good analogy here is, you know, when you go to an eye doctor, they put you behind one of these, you know, these ophthalmology or lens machines, and as they go, is it better this way? Click, 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 click. Is it better that way? Click, click, click. Is it better this way? And they do that for both eyes, and then they go click, 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 and say, now can you read, you know, the small print on the on the eye reading chart? And lo and behold, you can read the smallest letters there. And so we all, if we done our homework right, all of a sudden, and we did a good job brainstorming, all of a sudden the right solution should start to, you know, float to the top. I always like to incorporate Adam Smith's invisible hand in a conversation like this, because Adam Smith's invisible hand deals with finding our highest and best fit in the marketplace. And only you can determine that. The government or nobody else can. This is something that's, you know, personal to you in terms of what you believe your highest and best fit in the marketplace is. And sometimes I like to change out the name Adam Smith's invisible hand, and sometimes put in there the invisible hand of God. It's kind of hard to understand why, and we got led to different, you know, experiences and events in our life. But sure enough, if we start to take a look at the order of these events and really, again, study them, you know, really put them under a magnifying glass, you know, we'll eventually see that, and this is called destiny. This is, you know, but eventually we'll see, my gosh, there is a relationship between experiencing this and this experience that have prepared me to be the most qualified person to execute a mission statement to achieve a vision, a success statement. So next, once we have the short list of 4 most likely solutions, we now want to run each of these 4 solutions through what we call a SWOT analysis. And first, we want to identify what are the strengths associated with this short list of each of these 4 solutions. What are the weaknesses associated with each of the 3 to 4 solutions? What are the opportunities associated with each of the 3 or 4 solutions? And what are the threats associated with each of the 3 or 4 solutions? And there's something about this process, especially if you line them up in a chart like this and take the strengths, the weaknesses, and threats and opportunities associated with alternative plan A, alternative plan B, and alternative plan C, that it's just kind of amazing how the just dumb logic, the one that makes the most sense, that has the greatest return on investment, most naturally fits your background, your life story, etc., just kind of flows to the top. And you know, another thing I like about going through this particular aspect of the strategic planning process or case study process, you know, if plan B or A doesn't work, you got plan B and C already lined up. And halfway through the execution of plan A, knowing that you have a plan B and C, that if a law changes or some resource doesn't show up, you're more likely to, on the fly, just like an athlete that's trained to do something over and over again, that you're more likely to, on the fly, come up with a solution for that problem right then and there, and not have to, go through the planning process all over again. So again, which solution gives the best focus on your vision of success? And as we go through this process, we actually start to formulate what is our vision of success in terms of income or number of employees, or where do we eventually want to wind up in life? Because wherever we want to wind up in life, I can assure you, it's going to take other people who buy into you to make that happen. Finally, we have to select and recommend our best solution to the number one problem. So the number one was, what's our problem statement, and 6 is now we're going to make a recommendation. Now this could be step 2 or step 3 or step 2 and 3 simultaneously. But gosh, I just can't emphasize enough how important a group of buddies can be. Friends. It can also be people you might hire, or people that you, maybe you find people who are all struggling with some kind of life decision problem, and it can be kind of a support group. But boy, there's just something about the dynamics of other humans being a part of this whole process that can really help you see things in you that you can't see yourself. Sometimes, if this was a mirror, not a magnifying glass, when I look at myself and see an image of myself in this mirror, I can see the image, but I can't see what's going on behind the eyeballs, between the ears. And when you're an advisory board, in some cases when you're with people who have known you for decades, they have a better understanding of what your most competitive resources are. And you just can't get that by looking at yourself in a mirror. And you can't look at yourself underneath a magnifying glass. Sometimes you need, people to do that for you, and sometimes tell you or share with you things that you don't want to hear. But it's probably better to have a friend tell you in an advisory board meeting than find out the hard way in the marketplace. Okay, so step 4 in this process of developing a power and influence acquisition program is to develop a hypothesis, a question, relevant to your passion. So now is where we start to get into that doctoral level of training and education. What is our hypothesis? What kind of research question can we come up with relevant to what we're passionate about, what we want to become an authority on someday throughout our life? And again, if we're in our early 20s or our early teens, the sooner we start this, the sooner we can start the stepping stone of someone referring someone. Because what you'll soon find out, after you meet about 30 people, people start sending other people to meet you. It's kind of amazing how that works. All of a sudden, people start seeking you out to acquire power and influence, and that's when you know your program's working. But step 4 is to develop a hypothesis or question relevant to your passion, and we're going to use that question as a vehicle to go meet people of power and influence, which takes us to step 5. Your hypothesis is the backbone of your market power and influence acquisition program. So step 5 is develop a MentorNet vehicle a project too, and we'll get to it. I love this image. So a car is a vehicle, and here's this guy's, waving out the window. He's driving and waving out the window. And what's important about this, as I note at the bottom down here, this vehicle is a non-threatening vehicle to meet people of power and influence. So this is important. Listen carefully. I'll pause. We don't want to be selling ourselves or a product or service. We're seeking mentoring advice. If at any time we come across like we're selling ourselves or a product or service, someone of power and influence will go, oh my gosh, personnel's down the hall that way, purchasing is down the hall this way. Get out of my face. So we really want to, as best as we can, come across in a very sincere way. I'm working on a project to help others. It's for the betterment of all, such as a doctoral dissertation program's objective is to give back to the field of study, back to the science, back to whatever you're passionate about. And so it's important that we come across from the standpoint as we're doing a research project, and that's why I have down here, we want to be either writing a book, writing an article for publication, developing a video or an educational video, or to help others in some kind of way. But we got to be very clear that we don't come across as so, like we're selling ourselves or trying to sell a product or a service. Again, I want to bring up Rick Pitino's book, Success is a Choice, and refocus that all this is like an athlete. We're developing a program. I mean, just like developing a game or sport like basketball or football. But in this case, we're developing a routine that you can develop technique with, just like learning how to, get better at basketball or throwing a football or something. This is a program where how we develop and submit our email of interest, how we write and send a letter in and follow up. Everything about this is something in terms of developing this non-threatening vehicle to meet people of power and influence. This vehicle is, in essence, a sport, if you will, that has a sequence of events that you're going to practice and get really good at and practicing over and over and over again, always getting feedback. How could I be better at it? So if you have to meet anybody in any kind of situation, that you have a way of doing that. Okay, we're now going to get up to step 6. Remember, you are looking for mentors, people who are willing to invest in you, people who are willing and will take pride in giving you advice on your life. And what they're going to get in return is your success. So you get people, when people give you advice, they want you to be successful because they want to take pride in that my words of advice led to you becoming successful. And so step 6 is develop a mentor acquisition elevator pitch. So one of the first things we have to master is how can we meet someone with a very brief, like no more than 30 to 40 seconds, if that less is more, shorter is better, a statement that covers who you are, your situation, that validates you, explains your current situation and what you're trying to do and how they may help. So I have up here now a mentor acquisition elevator pitch and cover letter. So this cover letter, and this cover letter wants to be something we memorize. So the elevator pitch, which means something you can share with someone within 20 seconds, and the length of time of an elevator ride from the first floor to the third floor or something. This pitch wants to first have a summary label. It wants to touch on your professional background and where you are in terms of in the marketplace, relevant to what you're passionate about, your current situation. And then it asks the questions, can we meet for a conversation? And the next slide up here gives you an example. Now, I've been a corporate trainer over the years specializing in, team building, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and some years ago I got very involved in emotional intelligence, and everything about my life kept, pushing me in the direction of going into the health and wellness industry. And so I did an example pitch, Metronet pitch, as well as cover letter that's on my current life at this moment of this video. So here's an example cover letter and elevator pitch. So, dear, okay, with the person's name. The first sentence is here, I'm writing and producing a book and video for national publication and syndication on strategic health and wellness. There's your opening sentence. That's what I'm all about. The second sentence here, I practice as an independent corporate and personal trainer that specializes in developing health and wellness programs. I also have been teaching at UCLA. I've been teaching entrepreneurship courses at UCLA Extension since 1993, thus my academic passion to publish and contribute to my field of study. Now, by the way, the reason why I put the UCLA part in there is because the first sentence says I practice as an independent corporate and personal trainer. I want to draw away from that I might be doing a contract sales pitch. So as an instructor, I come across as a little more neutral and passionate about doing research and publishing. So I would encourage you to not say anything about, if you are looking for a job, I wouldn't bring that up. I would not. Now that can come from it, and let's say I meet somebody and it just so happens that they have been thinking about developing a corporate health and wellness program, which I'm certified in doing. Well, yay, but I can't bring that up at this particular point. Okay, 3 here is the third sentence. It states that, and this qualifies me, or my certain situation. Here is my situation. My research hypothesis, again, key word, hypothesis, is that emotional intelligence deals with how we make decisions relevant to our society and marketplace values. Thus, how directly does corporate and individual health leadership have influences on one's health? How do we make health decisions? Many variables come into play with this question. And I have this little image down here of, junk food versus healthy food, and I hope to engage my potential interviewee on a conversation of how much is health promoted at the workplace, what kind of impact does it have on a group or individual, and just in general, if we want to influence people to be healthier, how do we do that? How do we influence for someone to, to consciously and subconsciously, eat a natural food versus a processed food, for example? Okay, number 4 here is, it would mean much to me, or this is the fourth sentence, it would mean much to me if we could have a 30-minute conversation on your views on organizational health and your organization's health values. Depending on what we discover, this meeting may lead to being featured in my book and video on strategic health and wellness. And then the fifth sentence here is, I will reach out to you in about a week to see if we can find some time to have a meeting, whether it's Skype or phone, or hopefully a meeting in person. I encourage you to meet people in person as best as you can. Okay, important interviewing notes. So let's say this does lead to a meeting, and I just want to get this out there. I think I like 6 little notes here. Always make sure you talk less than 20% of the time. You're there to learn from the person you're interviewing. You're not there to prove you're right and that everyone else is wrong. So no matter how energetic you are or how extrovert you are, this is an area that I struggle with myself because I very much like talking and lecturing, that we sometimes have to keep our mouth shut and raise the question and make sure that we're asking questions but not explaining ourselves. So be organized when you go into these meetings. 2, observe corporate culture. So when you have these meetings, just be aware, is it, liberal, conservative, work hard, play hard, or, just what's going on. Get a feel for the culture of the environment, because that might, give you a much insight into whatever it is you're studying. I mean, so if they answer questions in a certain way, some organizations, wear their attitude on their sleeve. You can, by what other people seem to be working here. How well do they take care of their staff and employees? How much room do they give each person for office workspace? So just be aware while you're in there. Have your own little magnifying glass and look around and observe and see if you can get any insight on this organization's corporate culture. The next interview note to be aware of is, ask for advice on your life. When someone gives you advice in your life, that means they've bought into you. They're now committed to making sure you succeed. So when this person's at the country club sitting in the jacuzzi and someone's looking for a person to help them out, or employee, or a consultant, or whatever, and it's relevant to what you're studying, this person you're interviewing that gives advice is probably going to bring your name up. So kind of keep that in mind. Ask for references to meet 2 other people, not 1, not 3, but 2 other people. So if someone gives you a reference to meet someone, it's probably going to be someone senior than who they are. Also, this person, if you have this name to say, I've been referred to by someone, they're more likely than not going to take the time to meet you. Otherwise, they might slam the door in your face. So what's kind of cool about this, once you get your very first one, and it might take you a lot of work just to get your first interview, but once you meet 1, you meet 2. Once you meet 2, you meet 4. Once you meet 4, you meet 8. And just so it builds. It's like a pyramid, and we know that once you meet about 30 people, your phone starts to ring, and we can say that if you go so far to meet 100 people, you can name your price. You'll have a job of a lifetime. So it's very effective. And I want to kind of reflect back to that picture I had of those state Supreme Court justices. They started somewhere acquiring power and influence. They started a program where they started meeting people, and look at them now. So the sooner you start this, the better off you are going to be down the road. So now, so here's my 5th out of, I think there's just 6 things. Make sure you send a thank you card to Mr. or Miss Big's assistant that helped you put this meeting together. If anybody within the person you interviewed organization helped you set this meeting up, make sure the next day they get a little postcard or letter on monogram type size envelope that says, Dear Susan or Jim, thank you so much for your assistance in setting up this meeting with Mr. or Miss Big. It's people like you who are allowing me to get my research project done. Most of these kind of people don't get these kind of letters, and these people screen the emails, screen the letter mails. If they're looking for someone to help them out on a project, this person will often make recommendations of a short list of people to be called. They're very, very powerful people, yet they get very little recognition from the outside of the organization coming in. So if anyone that helped you, make sure you get a letter off that person. Now, just so you know, the next day, let's say Mr. or Miss Big gets 100 units of mail, and what winds up on their desk are just 10 letters or 10 emails or a highly screened amount of information to get through. I can assure you the card that you sent into Mr. or Miss Big's assistant will be on the top of that list. And so they're never going to forget you if you could do that. Stay in touch with your contact as well as any assistant that might have helped you set up the meeting 2 to 3 times a year. Shoot an email in there, drop a letter, send a card, do something to keep your name in the forefront. Now, there's another little important point. Even after you get your power and influence job, or even if success comes and you're busy, still stay in touch with these people, because having this network of people of power and influence building year after year after year, if let's say you get a job with an organization, if they know that you're connected with hundreds or 100 or 20 or whatever people of power and influence, they're going to treat you with a higher level of respect, kid gloves, than if you didn't. And so it's very valuable to build and keep in touch with these people and keep them assembled as a network of mentors for the rest of your life. Step 7 is to turn your power and influence program into a project management program. So now that we've got a cover letter and a pitch, and that we've rehearsed and practiced and trained ourselves on. Now we want to develop a plan, just like a business plan, to management, so that there's a sense of structure and there's some goals, and it's more of a mechanical process of our life. So this plan wants to have a, just like a business plan, a mission statement, a vision of success statement, organizational structure, and phases of competitive development. So I've got an example here of how this plan, if I was going to do a plan based on the cover letter that I just wrote for what I'm doing in the health and wellness industry, my mission statement would sound like this: to research through personal interviews with people of power and influence the impact of emotional intelligence, the impact that emotional intelligence has on a group and or individual's personal health decisions, and then produce a book and video on the results to be promoted to corporate and individual health and wellness, to the personal and corporate health and wellness industry. I will differentiate myself in the marketplace by trying to show that the practice of yoga is the most efficient way to master the art of emotional intelligence, health, and wellness. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but and a mission statement is a law. It's not something I share with anyone in the public. It's something that we keep in the back of our line in terms of what are we selling, to whom are we selling it, and what makes us different. So the objective of this power and influence program is to go out and meet people, gather information, develop a book and a video, again, all using people to get the power and influence to promote the book and the video and me within the corporate and individual health and wellness industry to become an authority, a national authority on the subject matter. 2, vision of success statement, to become a recognized authority on the integration of emotional intelligence and the practice of yoga. By the way, a little sidebar, I'm currently and almost done with a book called EQ Yoga that integrates the 5 realms and 15 scales of emotional intelligence with the 7 levels of chakra, if you're familiar with any of the yoga stuff. But anyway, that would be my vision of success, to become a nationally recognized authority. 3 is develop an organizational structure. And again, I got my Marquette basketball player here under personal interviews, in-person interviews. Anyway, so we have administration that manages everything, in-person interviews, the study of emotional intelligence, the study of yoga and the 7 chakras, strategic health and wellness book, and strategic health and wellness video. Those would be the divisions of labor within this program. And if I had money to throw at it, I could actually have staff in these positions, but these are the functional divisions of labor that would make this program work. Phase 4, it would be develop our phases of competitive development, or part 4 of our plan. Phase 1 is project setup, set up database for marketing contacts, correspondence, meeting dates and times, and follow-up communications. And so notice the file cabinet that I've got on the side there, which is probably just an area of my hard drive on my iPhone and my notebook and computer systems, but still, it's get organized and structured. Also, probably along that same lines would be rehearsing my sales pitch and refining that, and maybe even developing an advisory board would be something that could be part of phase 1 also. Phase 2 is once I acquire 30 contacts, I then want to take the time to actually come up with the first draft of my book, Strategic Health and Wellness, and then publish that book, self-publish the book, so I can make 30, 40, 50 copies that I can use to send to even more senior people relevant to health and wellness, for them to be a reader, to give feedback on the book. And when someone receives a book from you, and for them to take a look at, boy, that really establishes your credibility even higher. Phase 3 is advanced connecting, to use the draft book, Strategic Health and Wellness, as a vehicle to meet people of even higher power and influence by asking them to review the book for feedback. Phase 4, achieve 100 interview contacts with people of power and influence. And the picture I have down in the corner there, that's a picture of 100 people. That's what 100 people look like. And there's been many studies have done that if those are all people of power and influence, and you meet 100 of them, you can officially call yourself a power broker. One of the videos in our lecture video series is on the tipping point by Malcolm Gladwell. And just a little FYI, the tipping point is all about how just a little change can create a pandemic of demand. And I certainly hope my concepts on emotional intelligence, health, and wellness represent that little change that creates a pandemic of demand for a new concept. But in the book, The Tipping Point also goes into great detail on how social networks work. Connectors, mavens, so it breaks it all, a whole structure of, and it's just very, very fascinating on how that works. So here's our class assignment. One, we want you to establish what you're passionate about. And I realize for some people, that's not an easy question to answer. But at some point in life, we have to figure this out, or we're just going to flounder and have meaningless jobs. And so we might just have to take a wild-ass guess. But, serendipity, which means good fortune in the process of going from point A to B, we've got to start someplace. You might find, oh, I guess I'm not passionate about that. But based on your Myers-Briggs type, feedback from friends, we have to become passionate about something, whether it's very, very general or very specific. Even if it's crazy, maybe you're passionate about video games or cartoons or or watching TV. I know that, it doesn't sound very ambitious, but, maybe you're meant to be a television show critic or a movie critic. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming. But you got to get something down. And this is where the advisory board and that strategic planning process or case study process, might force you to do the brainstorming, the shortlisting, the SWOT analysis to come up with something. And then, with enough looking at these ideas underneath your own magnifying glass, you might go, oh my God, this is my passion. It might not be until you take the time to write out your biography to realize, hey, there is a sequence of events in my life that I truly am passionate about. 2, develop the hypothesis. So whatever you define as your passion, next we want you to identify your hypothesis. The question, if this, then that. And now we can go out and interview people to give you insight on this hypothesis. And the hypothesis really also wants to be something that's somewhat open-ended. It's not a yes or no kind of answer we're looking for. It's people's opinion. And it wants to be timeless. It wants to be a question that we could ask it now, and we probably can ask it 10 years from now because things change, and it's still a valid hypothesis. 3, we want you to write a mentor request letter. So 1, establish your passion. 2, develop your hypothesis. But 3, what we want you to turn in your assignment is a mentor request letter. That can also be used as an elevator pitch, but we want an actual letter that you're going to go, dear blank, comma, and then we want you, just as I did in the example earlier, so that and what I want for you as a mentor to you is that you go through and you now have something in your back pocket that that came from this course, this curriculum, that you might start using right now, or you might need to use it 10 years from now. But at least someone made you go through this process to realize that it is important to have a way of meeting people, and it is the way to the best possible career paths out there. And then last but not least, 4, design your plan. I want from you, submitted to me by the date indicated in our syllabus or in class, your plan. So what's your power and influence acquisition project's mission statement? What is your vision of success statement? What is your organizational structure? What bodies of knowledge do you have to master to execute this program and to have a working knowledge and vocabulary to execute the program? And then finally, what phase of development are you going to go through to execute the mission statement to achieve the vision of success statement? So there's our class assignment for you to get working on. I want to leave you with this statement here that 70% of our success comes directly from a third-party person who refers your name and makes your phone ring. So, so much of success is directly related to going out in the market and helping people and getting them to buy into you so they refer your name when they have the chance to. Good luck, and we'll see you at our next video.